I'm Kevin. I'm the farm manager. I been with Young Living for 3 years. I've had to live up here in St. Mary's for 3 years. So those of you that feel sorry for me, it's all right. I just want to welcome you all and hope you're having a great time. This is kind of what it's all about, to work for Young Living. You folks come here and get to experience the farm and go back and work on your things that you guys do, and hopefully this helps you out in your adventures to sell products. This is a great company to be able to come to the place where it all happens and where it all started and know that it's a special place. I first came here, I was told it was a special place by Gary and Mary, and it took me about a year to figure that out, but it is. It's really a special place. There's something about this farm. I go to the other farms and it's just not the same for me. This is home for me. So hopefully I get the chance and the opportunity to stay here as long as they'll let me. So what we've done here on this farm is turned a lot of things around. We've got a lot of things that we've changed. Trying to keep up with you guys selling product is a real struggle, and it puts a lot of pressure on us. The Melissa, the seedlings that we transplanted, we had 22,000 seedlings June 1st that we transplanted, 10,000 lavender seedlings, 9,000 yarrow seedlings, and approximately 10,000 more lavender seedlings that are already started and we'll be planting probably next week. That's really off from what we've done in the past. 2 years ago we planted 280,000 Melissa plants. We did that with a machine that Gary built. We still use it today, and it's all manual. We plant every plant by itself. Some of you may have been here and experienced that with us, and that if you ever get the opportunity to do that, it's pretty neat, because you can come see the plant that you put in the ground. The next year you could come back and see us cut that plant, and then the next year you can see us see it even get bigger. So that's a great opportunity to come and enjoy the farm, and none of this would happen without the crew that I have here. I've got some guys from down south that come up. I call them, and in 3 days they're here. They're 12 hours south of Mexico City, and I wouldn't trade them. I worked heavy construction for 30 years, and I wouldn't trade them for any of the guys that I had in the past. These guys are spot on. 5 o'clock they're in the field. I don't have to even look to see if the truck's there. They're in the field at 5 a.m. They go eat lunch for a half hour. They're back out there till 5 p.m. and never complain, happy. If it wasn't for them, this place wouldn't happen. They go through these fields manually with a hoe and clean all the weeds out. They've gone through this whole farm 3 times. There's 200 acres here. 85 of it is in Melissa, 35 of it in lavender, and 30 in yarrow. Not only do they weed the farm, they irrigate the farm, and they help plant the farm. And so they're busy all year long. And they're just a great group of guys. And all the other guys that work for me too, they're just super good guys. So if you see them around, please tell them thanks, because they do a heck of a job. And it's been a tough 3 years to get a good crew put together. In the fields, like I said, we go through them manually and weed all the weeds out. You know, we can't have products in our Melissa. It's got to be clean. We clean the fields, we clean it when it goes on the deck, and then we have to, everything that we make, you know, we have to send in, and it has to be tested and everything taken care of, and you guys have already learned about all that. And so there's a lot more in this process than just cutting it, throwing it in there, cooking it, and selling it to you. It's quite a deal. With all this that's going on, a lot of times we get pulled away from here too. We go to Highland Flats and help them cook trees all winter. So we're pretty busy all year long. It's not like we have a lot of downtime. When we're doing the harvest, this year I think it took me 14 days to do everything. But once you start the harvest, you've got about just a real narrow window to be able to get it all cut while the prime oil is in the plant. If you wait too long, you don't get any oil. You cut too early, you don't get any oil. If it's cold, you don't get any oil. So there's a lot that goes into being spot on, harvesting Saturdays, Sundays, holidays, 4th of July. That's pretty much the gig on this farm, is usually around the 4th of July we're starting to cut. So that that some people can't do that, you know, and a lot of people don't like to do that, but that's how we make it, and that's what we do here. So when we cut, this machine's behind us, we cut with the plant cannot touch the ground. Gary told me this when I first came here. You got to treat it like a fine lady, Kevin. She can't get dirty. You can't you can't rough her up. You can't use too much machinery to move it around because it just doesn't like it and it won't produce oil. So that was a good learning experience. I tried some different things. They didn't really work out. So we went back to the old methods and improved on some of that, and it's working out really good. The plant does get cut, goes through the machine, right into the truck or right into the wagon, and then from there we go right to the distillery with it and set it on the deck, and you guys have already learned about how all that works down there. Once we do get done cutting, sometimes I'll start cutting early in the morning, like 7, 8 o'clock, once the dew comes off and it warms up, and I'll try to keep up with them. Once I catch up to them, they may be cooking till 10, 11, 12, 2 in the morning, just depends on the weather. So our days are never set. When it's harvest time, it's go time, and we're here all day long. Sometimes we sleep here, and sometimes we don't. But it's pretty intense for a few weeks throughout the year, but it's worth it, you know. As we cut this year, usually I cut 3 rows at a time. Unlike the lavender harvester, it cuts 1 row. I can cut 3. Some of the plants this year were so big, I could only cut 2 at a time. Some areas even 1 row at a time, because the plants were huge, which was great, you know, and that's what helped us with our production. We doubled our production on Melissa. We doubled our production on lavender this year. Part of that's due to Mother Nature, and part of it's due to our fertilization and our help. I have a company called Tanio Technology, and I use them frequently. Soil samples, tissue samples, leaf samples, directions from them. He travels up and sees me about every month, maybe 2 months, from Colorado, and it's a guy that Gary's worked with his father, and his father passed away and passed the business on to him, and they know all about this farm upside down and backwards, more so than I did. So it's been a great knowledge for me to work with these guys and have them help me out here. As you know, the Melissa is very expensive, and now that you've been here to the farm and kind of see what goes on, it kind of comes around. You can see why it costs so much to produce this plant. This region, the Melissa likes this region in certain areas on this farm, and there's certain areas on the farm that it does not like, and they've tried growing it there quite a few times. It's not worked, so I'm changing and putting this yarrow in. The yarrow is native to here. It's all out through the woods, and so that's a plant that we're going to put in and utilize the fields where the plants that we're trying to grow here are not doing so well. So there's a lot to this farm, a lot of unforeseen things that you don't realize. You know, all of the weeds that are brought in from the animals, all of the weather. Last winter we went to, I think it was 19 days without any power. Trees tipped over, power lines tipped over. That means no water because you're on a well. So it wasn't consecutive, but it was like 6 days here, 3 days here. So, and we had about 3 feet of snow, which is great for the plants, but to live here and try to go to town, in northern Idaho, if you leave the highway, you better have a chainsaw, because to go to the mailbox, you might not get back home. You have to cut a tree out of the way and to get home. In fact, 2 days ago, there was a tree laying across the main road as you come in and took out the phone line and the power line. So, but it's a pretty interesting place to hang out and to live. And I go back home or go to these other farms, like I said, and this St. Mary's is just a special place, and I can't wait to get back. So I hope you guys enjoy the farm and enjoy the rest of your time up here in the great Northwest. So, any questions? Yes.
Yeah, can you speak a little bit to what fertilizers you use and don't use?
The fertilizers that I use are fish products, ground up fish products from Seattle that are in a tote, all natural, nothing added to it. If you read nature books or go anywhere where bears pull fish and salmon out of the rivers, that's where the biggest trees are. It's been there for hundreds of years, and the bears have been coming there for thousands of years. So I have a fish product that I have brought in, and I inject it into my sprinkler system. So I don't have to spray it, because I can't get on my fields. Sometimes I can't walk on the fields till May. I mean, it literally sink out of sight. So that really causes me a lot of problems, because if I tried fertilizing it manually with a tractor, by the time I get the fertilizer on, I'm already cutting before the fertilizer's gone to work. So I fertilize really heavy in the fall, and I fertilize early in the spring with fish, and then I use chicken, and it comes in a pelletized little teeny pellet, and I also put that into my sprinkler system and inject it through my sprinkler system, so it gets spread out throughout the whole farm. And I use one other product that's called PZ1000 that Tanio Technology uses, and it's a microgenesis which helps the plants grow, and I use that in the greenhouse to get my plants started. Other than that, that's all the fertilizer I use. No pesticides, no herbicides, nothing. If you go west of here, where the big grain fields are, for 400 miles, there's nothing but wheat fields. There's not even a worm grows in their ground. They heavily spray them. There's thousands of crop dusters over there all spring, all fall. No weeds. That Palouse is known for some of the best ground, some of the richest soil in the world. But there's nothing to it. You go over there and pick it up out of the field and smell it, it's dead. If you have good fertile ground, you pick it up and get it in your hand and smell it. If it's dead, you can't smell anything. If it's rich, and we check all of our nitrogen, all of our levels in all of our soils, test for everything, and get our soils as good as we can get it. The pH balance in your soil will change. You can change it. We all can change it. Our pH balance on our lawn. But it'll come back to Mother Nature. It comes back to where it wants to be. So if you keep doing that for 10 or 15 years, you're just going backwards, because your soil's getting damaged, and it takes 5 years to recover. So, and that's why I use the fish, because it's not harmful, and it's worked for thousands of years without man.
Yeah, that's very cool. Thank you.
So, yes.
How many acres or plants does it take to produce one of the bottles of oil for each plant that's harvested here?
Wow, you're putting me on the spot. Okay, I told you how many acres I have. I produce 21.9 kilos of Melissa. So you can times that out.
So that was 85 acres of Melissa gets 21.9 kilos. Is that what you said?
Yeah.
I'll times it out.
Okay. I have an individual that called me from Washington. He has a huge dairy. I'm trying to get some cow manure from him, from a dairy. And he called me and wanted to grow a little bit and cut it and see what he could do with it. He was messing around with it, trying to find some corners to put some stuff in, wanted some lavender. He called me back and he said, "Wow, Kevin, Melissa doesn't produce any oil." I said, "No, it doesn't." He's like, "So why do you grow it?" I said, "Because we use it." He goes, "Wow. I cook some and I didn't get hardly any oil out of it." I said, "Yeah, there's a trick to this. There's a method behind the madness, but I'm not going to tell you what it is." So, any other questions? Yes.
When you're using things like chicken or cow manure, do they have any herbicides that
The
is it organic? I guess
the chicken and the fish are organic. I have not got any organic. Most of your dairies have to use a strict feed, and all their hay is tested. But I have not got any of the cow manure here. All I was going to use it for was composting to break down, so it'd probably sit for 4 or 5 years before I used it, and most of that'd be burnt by the time I get to it. So, any other questions?
Thank
Okay.
you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Yeah,
guys.
thank you.
Do all the families for the guys
Are you gonna
come
share
up
that?
too, or do they stay home?
Yeah, I lived in Mexico, so I had a good chat with some of the guys in the field.
Yeah,
They're here just
strictly.
I'm sure they're
a lot of
amazing
them. Well, I got one that's in New Jersey.
Yeah.
I've got some that's worked back east, and they come here for 1 year, and they don't really like it at first, and they weren't going to come back, and then all of a sudden,
They miss
Kevin,
it.
please, they come back.
It's just
But
gorgeous.
I've got 4 guys that have been here for 7 years.
Okay.
They're just
Awesome.
and they bring their family. They're friends and families, and they're all from about the same village.
That's what they were saying
Yeah.
down in Guerrero. Okay,
Yeah,
very cool.
yeah, it's neat. And then and I get on Google Earth, and look at their house, and go, come look at your house. They're like,
That's so funny. I bet they love
they were
that.
freaking out, like,
You're like, I'm watching you. Everyone is out here.
I told them. Yep.
We have another group